Hello everyone, welcome to LRDIprep. My name is Samir Sardana, a plus educator on Unacademy. Today we have with us Shubham Kaushik, who have appeared for IMT Ghaziabad interview in the last week. And we will be talking with Shubham Kaushik about his interview experience on IMT Ghaziabad so that you get an idea किस तरह से interview के questions को आपको handle करना है, what are the questions that you can expect and MBA's interviews. Hi Shubham, welcome.
Hello, sir. Thank you.
Shubham, can you just take us through the experience that you had in the IMT Ghaziabad?
Yeah, sir. Initially it started off with, application form and all that has a deadline till 30th of January. After that, they start giving you, you have to fill up some PD details and you have to upload a video of 1 minute in which you will be telling about your details and all. After that, you have to select your PI interview timelines, dates and all. On that day, my was an evening session from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Wala. So in that session, they started off explaining about the procedure. Basically how to check whether your details are fine or not, whether your connectivity with that. All the formalities that have to be done before the interview gets started. So that all got done. After that, my chance of an interview was with panel one. My serial number was 9. There were two panelists in the interview. First one was mostly oriented into technical. I'll get into more of details. Uh, and the second one was mostly into the personal extracurriculars and what my interests are. So as I got into the interview, I greeted them with good afternoon. 4:30 p.m. it was. So they asked me about. So tell me about yourself. Like question. I explained about my.
So
Uh,
this was the first question, Shubham. Tell me about yourself.
yes, that
Okay.
was the first question. They asked me about. Tell me about yourself. So I have prepared a bit about it, about not getting into the details of what I've done, but mostly just glancing over my academics. And the graduation part of it, and what I'm currently doing, what is my current role, and what is. Basically, my stronger area was on the worker side because I've spent more time now on my work, and I'm continuously working now, right now also on in that domain. So I wanted to concentrate my interview towards that part of it. So I talked more about my current working area, my company, where I'm working, and what is the sector I'm working in. So it was mostly related to that. So suddenly, obviously interview picks up things from what we were you saying that answer, right? So she talked about, what are the, future aspects of electric cars, electric vehicles in India, looking at Tesla has already come in. So that was very generic. I told about what are the positives of it. I didn't really talk about the negatives because I think, yeah, that would make the interviewer more uh, powerful in that particular situation. So, but she had her question saying that what if this doesn't work out? Talking about Tesla being so expensive. So I just talked about that. I mean, Tesla coming into the market doesn't mean that it is very expensive. People have to go for it. It will bring in competition and all. So I was talking about Indian OEMs that would come into the market of that automotive domain. That was mostly about it.
What was the
And
reason, Shubham? What was the reason? Why did they ask this question? Did you mention something in your introduction that was related to it?
I'm currently working in the automotive domain of it.
Okay,
I'm a
okay.
process consultant in the automotive domain. So
And
they
that
wanted
became
to
the reason they asked this question to you. Okay, okay.
yeah, correct. So
Right.
I was comfortable in that area, and that gradually ended up being in that discussion. So it was very, comfortable for me to discuss about it and revolve the discussion around it. So she was convinced with my answer. It was a good discussion that we had, and she was talking about what if, you would have seen Harley Davidson just quitting the Indian market because it was not addressing to the crowd in India. So I said, yeah, that's okay. That is unfortunate for the riders who are willing to buy Harley Davidson bikes.
Right,
But
right.
eventually, yeah. So, but eventually, it is not zero because Bajaj is anyway in the market dealing with those bikes. So it was not necessarily that particular negative point that I put in. I mostly talked about the competition that brings. So I took a positive end of it. I said that there will be many companies that will be coming into that particular field and Indians, and I talked about my generation being fancied by those electric cars and new things and Elon Musk and all. So I just pulled that discussion into that particular domain, and that was a very fair discussion. She was convinced. She looked convinced on that moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
after that,
Yeah.
And
So she
any question that they asked from the academics or the gap years or
I didn't really have any gap year because I mean my education started from 2012 for graduation, 2016. Maybe 1 or 2 months waiting for that call letter is not considered gap year or gap time. So I just told about there was no gap year and all, and she just she also asked me about what are the I mean, why do you want to do an MBA of 2 year program and not an executive MBA since you're already so I told her that it is more of an maybe interest driven and experience driven what I want to do eventually in my life. So executive MBA is mostly, I mean, I put it that way like, I mean, executive MBA you do when you have to grow in the same particular ladder and you want to stick with the particular domain with what you're working in. So I just said that I want to work into that particular type of domain. That's why I needed 2 years of program and changing my domain into marketing or maybe consulting of that particular area.
okay, okay.
So, I mean, this was most of the discussion. It took around 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, this particular discussion took around 10 to 15 minutes. However, the whole is meant to be around 15 to 20 minutes. So
Right,
this took around 10 minutes of my time of the interview. And I mean, I more or less convinced her that, yeah, I mean, I'm made for this particular type of studying or maybe particular type of role and why IMT. She said, why only IMT? So I talked about that IMT has a good history of marketing and that particular type of thing. So I convinced her that yeah, I mean I'm fit for this role and why I'm aspiring to be in this particular industry.
right, right.
So this was more or less of it. And second part of my interview was basically on the personal levels. On she talked more about my interest. So I have written that playing cricket is one of my hobbies. So she pulled up Australia versus England series that happened in Australia recently, and that was a bit. I don't know. I didn't plan to be emotional about that, but it turned out to be I got emotional about that particular topic on how India achieved with all those youngsters from being down to 36 all out, coming on to win that particular series 2-1. It was, I mean, that was an emotional moment there. So she was like, okay, you got so emotional about it. I agree that it's a passion for you, but no one has ever been so emotional about that topic.
But
So
that's a good thing.
I think it turned into
That's
my
a
direction.
good thing, Shubham, that you got emotional there on this because that shows how passionate are you about your interest, right?
Yes, correct, sir. So eventually it was good for me. I realized it in the later part of the interview because she was saying, okay, I think you should be as you are in your future life or whatever you aspire to be. And she was also talking about, do you think emotions are, I mean, when people say about corporate sector, they say that emotions has to be on the back seat and you should not get emotional when you take it. I said that's absolutely right. Emotional comes into picture when you have to express yourself, and that cannot be taken away from whatever you are feeling or whatever you are doing in your life. You have to express yourself. And second thing is, yeah, emotions cannot come into your line of thinking when you have to make a big decision. So I also convinced her on that part. Yeah, I mean, decision making, you have to keep your emotions aside, and then you have to work on the facts and the basic data that you have in front of you. So he also asked me about I mean, is there any experience that you faced in your company that when you were emotional, but you had to take a decision based on the facts and the data in front of you? So I mean, my job involves getting in, I mean, along with people, interacting with them over a period of 6 months of time. So we generally create a rapport with the project management. So in that particular domain, you tend to have an inclination to that person because you have been along with that person working for that particular project. But I defined it that way that when process comes into picture, when a certain way has to be done in a certain way,
Okay.
your emotions have to be on a backseat and you have to take decisions based on whatever the process guides you and whatever has been told you to do and whatever is your job about. So she was fair enough convinced, okay, thank you for the experience and all she said. So that was a good end to that particular discussion. And she also asked about what are the great, I missed to explain that, sorry. In that Australia 2-1 series, she asked me about what are your great learnings from those scenarios. So I talked about that you cannot underestimate anyone in any scenario. That was my
Right.
first learning. Second one was whenever the chips are down, whatever situation it might be, you can come back to a positive side of it. You can turn around the situation. So in
Right.
any of the, I mean, even if you are in a very bad situation, He said, "Do you think that happens in the business or the corporate world also?" I said, "Yeah, that happens, and it has been many scenarios that I also have been into that scenario. So it is a fair learning I think I had." So he said, "Okay, yeah, good." Also, yeah, I think, yeah, that's it. She was mostly into that particular of personal thinking. I mean,
How many
okay,
members were there?
so,
How many members were there in the
so
panel?
two panelists, both were ladies. The first one was mostly into my technical and academic. Second one was mostly into interest, personal, whatever you want to do.
All right, all right. So,
So that was mostly my,
listening to your experience, I can see that one should say the introduction part only those statements where you are comfortable to talk about, right? Only those things at which you can talk at length. Secondly, you need to
yes,
be
correct.
prepared with academics, right? And interest, if you are mentioning, you should be knowing, the
Yes,
facts about the interest, and you should be also very aware of the weaknesses, and you should be able to tell them everything that you're, representing about yourself in a form of story. For example, when they ask you
yes,
this question that, what, tell me a situation where you acted as an emotional person, but then you had to take a decision based on the facts. So you
right.
had a story ready with yourself, which is your actual experience, right? So whatever
Right.
strength and weaknesses you are telling about yourself, and any traits of your personality that you are representing in the interview, you need to have a story at the end of it to support it, right? So this, I
Yes.
guess, is my
Having a
learning from.
superficial will not really work. You need to build, make them believe of that particular story and own that particular thing. So you have
That's
to be very ready in all aspects of it.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. All right. So wish you all the best, Shubham. I get listening to what you had, the way you have responded to all the questions. I'm pretty confident that you will convert this call, and wish you all the best. And hopefully you will, come out with the flying colors in the interview. Now do let us know if once you get through with the interview of IMT Ghaziabad. And many congratulations for converting Great Lakes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.